Please be seated. Modern life is noisy. We all know that. With traffic filling the streets, engines revving, brakes screeching, airplanes roaring overhead, and the thumping bass of someone else's car stereo echoing down the block. The world hums with constant motion and noise. Add to that the endless pings and rings of our devices, the steady buzz of the refrigerator, and the rattle of the heater, and it becomes nearly impossible to find quiet anywhere. And as loud as it feels now, the world has always been a raucous place. Nearly 2,000 years ago, some Christians decided they needed to step away from it all, to leave behind the distractions, the noise, and the temptations of the culture all around them. They were called the desert fathers and mothers. These were men and women of deep devotion who withdrew to the deserts of Egypt, Syria, and Palestine to seek God in stillness and in prayer. They weren't perfect or polished, and they were human beings who wrestled honestly with pride, greed, anger, and fear. Yet through prayer and patience, they discovered deep wisdom about the human heart and the mercy of God. Their sayings and stories have been passed down for centuries as windows into what holiness looks like when it's stripped of its pretense, simple, real, and full of grace. The brothers used to tell this one story about Abbot Gelasius that caught my attention. Gelasius had this beautiful hand-copied Bible, the whole of the Old and New Testaments together, written on fine parchment paper. And it was worth about 18 soldi, a small fortune. And Gelasius kept that book in the church, kind of like where we keep our gospel book, right on display, so that all the monks could read it whenever they wanted. One day, a visiting monk arrived, and he stayed with Gelasius for a while. And seeing the Bible, he began to desire it for himself. Finally, he gave in to temptation, stole it, and fled as quickly as he could. Gelasius saw what had happened, but didn't chase after him, didn't raise an alarm, didn't say a word. Meanwhile, the thief went into the city to try and sell the Bible. He found a man interested in buying it and asked him to pay 16 soldi for it. The buyer said, "That seems like a good price, but first let me show it to someone who knows more about such books and what they're worth, and then I'll buy it." The thief agreed and gave him the Bible. The buyer took it straight to Abbot Gelasius to ask his opinion. "Father," he said, "someone is selling me this Bible for 16 soldi. Is it worth that much?" Gelasius picked the Bible up, inspected it, looked at it, and replied, "It's a very good copy. Buy it. It's worth that price." So the buyer went back to the thief, and instead of repeating what Gelasius told him, he said, I showed this to Abbot Gelasius, and he said it was an okay copy, but your price was too expensive, and it wasn't worth that much." Hearing that, the thief paused and asked, "Did he say anything else?" "No," said the buyer. At that moment, the thief's heart was pierced. "Then I can't sell it." And he took it back, and he turned around and went back to Gelasius and confessed everything and pleaded, "Please take the Bible back." But Gelasius refused. "No, brother, you keep it. It seems you need it." The thief pleaded with him, "If you don't take it back, I'll never have peace." Gelasius smiled and relented. If your peace depends on it, then I'll take it back." From that day on, the brother stayed with Gelasius for the rest of his life and grew in humility and grace and was transformed by the old man's patience and mercy. I find this story so arresting because I know that I have yet to learn such patience or wisdom or forbearance, to teach it or live it in any fashion. As a priest and as a father, I'm always too much in a hurry to provide the correct answer or offer the right correction. I'm always too attached to the outcomes, too obsessed with my own worries about what if I let that slide? What will happen? And yet I yearn for a different way. Perhaps that's what All Saints Sunday is about. Pursuing a different way of walking through the world. And perhaps by such walking, creating another world. As such, it's not surprising that Jesus shares with us the ultimate testimony of saintly living, the Beatitudes. I don't know about you, but when I hear these readings, I tend to get more than a little bit nervous and uncomfortable by what they say. And Luke's version we heard this morning doesn't pull any punches. Matthew's gospel softens it a little bit. "Blessed are the poor in spirit," he says. Luke just says, "Blessed are the poor." They're not sentimental, and they're not safe. These words really aren't embroidered on any of the cushions around here. We don't print them on greeting cards. They don't describe what we hope will happen someday in heaven. No, these words describe the shape of God's kingdom here and now that's breaking into the world already through the way that Jesus embodied for us and indeed continues to empower us to live if we just say yes. Blessed are you who are poor, for yours is the kingdom of God. Blessed are you who hunger now. Blessed are you who weep now. And then, just in case we miss the point, he flips the script over. But woe to you who are rich. Woe to you who are full. Woe to you who laugh now. It's a great reversal. It's the upside-down logic of the kingdom, something we can't quite understand. The poor, the grieving, the hungry, the hated, these are called blessed, while those who seem to have it all together are warned the tables will be turned. We're talking about those people with the pristine lawns, there's not a weed in them. We're talking about the people whose outfit corresponds perfectly, the people that have perfect teeth, nice white pearly ones, the people that look, like us. Woe to us, Jesus is saying. And if we're honest, wouldn't we rather identify with those to whom Jesus says, woe? Wouldn't we rather have a belly full instead of an empty, growling stomach? Wouldn't you rather have a credit card without a limit instead of a pocket full of lint? But Jesus isn't moralizing here or offering us up some poetic imagery. He's revealing a truth about God's grace and how it works. That it flows most freely when people have let go of their illusion of control. When hands are empty enough to receive, and hearts are broken open in a way that they'll actually pause to connect. What if the role of a saint is not to teach us how to do great, powerful works, but rather how to let go? When we think of saints, we often imagine heroism, grand gestures of faith, courageous deeds, extraordinary virtue. If you were to go in the chapel, you'd see the windows. In here, they're mostly the lives from this life of Christ. But in the chapel, we have some saints, and they're all doing incredible things. George is spearing a dragon. St. Patrick is sending the serpents out of Ireland, performing miracle after miracle in those windows. And that's what we think saints are. But most of the saints never sought greatness. They didn't aspire to do anything courageous even. They simply sought God. And in the process, they learned the art of detachment, letting go of possessions, letting go of pride, letting go of control, and letting go even of the reputation, so that love could flow freely through them from God to the world. The Desert Fathers and Mothers understood this quite well. They fled the cities not to escape the world, but to see it more clearly. They knew that the noise outside is nothing compared to the noise within, and the endless craving for approval, comfort, and certainty. You see, detachment wasn't a rejection of life, but the way of being fully alive to what matters most. Abbot Gelasius does not perform a miracle or preach a sermon. What does he do? He refuses to cling, not to his book, not to his rightness, not even to the need to provide correction to the thief. He doesn't cling to his authority. His calm mercy disarms the one who's wronged him, and then the thief's heart is changed. This is the quiet power of the saint, not to conquer, but to consent, not to grasp, but to release. Perhaps the gift the saints still offer us today is that one. This gift of detachment, a different kind of wisdom for a noisy and grasping world. They remind us that holiness is not about doing more, but about doing less and needing less. It is the freedom to live with open hands and an open heart, trusting that nothing truly ours can ever be taken away. The saintly business of all saints might seem like a serious effort, one we must muscle into or pay very serious attention to. But the modern-day monk, Thomas Merton, invites us to see it as a surprising reversal. He writes this: "What is serious to humanity is often very trivial in the sight of God. What in God might appear to us as play is perhaps what he himself takes most seriously. At any rate, the Lord plays and diverts himself in the garden of his creation. And if we could let go of our own obsession with what we think is the meaning of it all, we might be able to hear his call and follow him in his mysterious cosmic dance. We do not have to go very far to catch echoes of that game and of the dancing. When we are alone on a starlit night, when by chance we see the migrating birds in autumn descending on a grove of junipers to rest and eat, when we see children in a moment when they are really children, when we know love in our own hearts, or when, like the Japanese poet Beisho, we hear an old frog land in a quiet pond with a solitary splash. At such times, the awakening, the turning inside out of all our values, the newness, the emptiness, and the purity of vision that make themselves evident provide us a glimpse of the cosmic dance. For the world and time are the dance of the Lord in emptiness. The silence of the spheres is the music of a wedding feast. The more we persist in misunderstanding the phenomena of life, the more we analyze them into strange finalities and complex purposes of our own, the more we involve ourselves in sadness, absurdity, and despair. But it does not matter very much, because no despair of ours can alter the reality of things or stain the joy of the cosmic dance which is always there and always has been. Indeed, we are in the midst of it, and it is in the midst of us, for it lives in our very blood, whether we want it to or not. Yet the fact remains that we are invited to forget ourselves on purpose, to cast our awful solemnity to the winds, and to join in the general dance. All Saints' Sunday is an invitation to let God work, to stop busying and distracting ourselves with stuff that doesn't matter, and to instead pay attention to what does. The joyful things, the simple things, the real things. And then to join in and to participate in that quiet hum of reality, where love burns brightly, hope is felt pervasively, and joy is evident. So let us join the dance of the saints and to learn to let go of our limited values and vision and the illusion of our control and find the blessing of detachment. Amen.